Hi there, this is Steve Butler here from Atlanta, Georgia. I've been an information technology professional in the private sector for over 32 years, and today I'm going to tell you about a book and a website that I came across over a year ago that has significantly changed my life and my finances. Now, this is not just any book. This book is a real game changer, and it could be a real game changer for you. The subject of the book has to do with a topic that just about every American over the age of 18 deals with each and every year. It's something that most everyone dislikes until they learn this information I'm going to share with you. There's even a specific day called out on the calendar for this occasion. And so, my suggestion is for the next several minutes that you put everything down, you shut out all of the distractions, you silence your phone, and maybe just tune in and listen to what I've learned about from this book. The information I am going to share you is incredibly important and it could literally change your life and the life of your family once you understand the principles contained in it. So let me share my screen with you real quick and let's go ahead and go through this. So I know what you're thinking, and no, I'm not pitching a get rich quick scheme, a pyramid plan, or anything like that. In most basic terms, you could call it, or maybe look at this as a lost savings account that you never knew that you had access to. Keep in mind that your amount will vary, and it's solely based on how much you've put into this account, or better stated, it's actually how much you've had taken out of previously generated money. Now, keep in mind that while most people are able to tap into this, tap into this money and get a full refund, not everybody is eligible. There's rules and laws that govern who can and cannot receive these funds, and you'll definitely want to read the book I'm about to tell you about and study the author's website like I did to see if you qualify and learn how to request your funds, or should I say refunds, if you are indeed eligible. So by now, you've probably guessed the topic of the book that I'll be talking about, but keep watching, and I promise to share the scanned pictures of the actual checks that I've received along with screenshots of the deposits in just a few minutes. Now, the book that I want to share with you is called Cracking the Code: The Fascinating Truth About Taxation in America, written by Peter Eric Hendrickson. Now, once the Internal Revenue Code came online, Pete went to work diligently deciphering and analyzing it. And it's only with the help of computers that one could accomplish such a feat as he did, tying in all of the different intricate pieces of the code and seeing how they fit together. It's getting harder and harder to hide the truths of this world with so much access to information right at our fingertips. Pete's website is called losthorizons.com. It is an invaluable resource for this fascinating truth about taxation in America, loaded with lots and lots of goodies. So let's get into it. Before we get too far, let me set the record straight. First and foremost, let me start out by saying that this book is not a tax evasion book. It's not a tax protester book. I want to be very clear and very direct on this. Many people who've not even read the material, have not even met the author, wrongly label him as a tax schemer, a tax cheat, a tax avoider, and so on. But nothing could be further from the truth. The book actually dissects the laws, points out the narrowly defined activities that would make a person liable to have to pay the federal income tax or excise tax, even if they're not a citizen of the United States. The author in this book does not say, and again, underscore, highlight, call it out. The author in this book does not say that only people working for the federal government have to pay taxes, as some have falsely claimed. Again, he does not say that. Now, for those needing to file and pay this income tax, Pete encourages you to do so, as do I. He does not ever provide any advice contrary to this in his book or his teachings or writings. So, set the record straight, part two. Again, let me reiterate that this is not a tax evasion or tax protester book. In all reality, Pete is actually simply following the law and admonishing others to do the same. This book actually helps the reader learn about the original design and constitutionality of the income tax. Hence the title, The Fascinating Truth About Taxation in America. It really is fascinating. I've enjoyed unwrapping this and seeing how it all originated and how it all is pieced together. Now, there are several smear campaigns, outright lies that are propagated throughout the internet for the casual searchers to find. There has been different things with courtroom trials and IRS documents and memos labeled as frivolous tax arguments. All of this has been done in an attempt to dissuade people from digging into this material and learning the truth for themselves. When you really look at these things and you closely examine them, you'll find that they are unfounded and not relevant. Pete actually points directly to the law. He showcases multiple Supreme Court cases and cleverly rebuts the gross misunderstanding that the 16th Amendment unleashed full taxation power on all that comes in. Again, losthorizons.com, loaded with a plethora of information. Let's go to Setting the Record Straight, Part 3. Again, I'm going to reiterate for the third time that this is not a tax evasion or tax protester book, and I'm repeating myself because it is very important. It has actually helped a lot of people who have fallen victim to other weird tax protest or non-filing information schemes that are out there on the internet. Pete has actually helped them to correct the record and get their affairs in order, unlike that which people have claimed, which is to say that some of his stuff is false. That's not true. Now, since I work in information technology, it's all about the data. The rich content that you can find at losthorizons.com has been online for 17 years. Each time I visit losthorizons.com, I find other nuggets that I didn't see there before. And I really can't fathom the amount of time that Pete has invested into his research, his books, and his website, as well as helping thousands and thousands of people over the past 17 years come to know this information. Now, because of the nature of what is revealed in this book, Pete's wife Doreen, and Pete's family have paid a significantly great price and endured huge sacrifices and hardships so that you can read, learn, and continue to have access to this very, very valuable information. It continues to be made available to those with ears to hear and a willingness to study it for themselves. Now, I've had the opportunity to meet Pete and his lovely wife Doreen on more than one occasion. This video is my way of saying thank you, Pete, Doreen, and family for all that you've done, as well as a way to pay it forward to others. So here's a little backstory on how I found this information in this book. In 2018, I was very, very interested in understanding how the banking system worked, how money worked. I wanted to make my money work better for me and my family. I wanted it to work harder and smarter. I was looking for ways on how to be my own bank, how to make more money in less time, how to leverage other people's money, and find legal ways to keep more of it in my family's possession by paying less taxes. So I started studying all of these different things, mortgages, banks, how all this different financial systems worked. Things came to a head for me one day when I was thinking about an upcoming bonus that I was going to get paid at work. However, Uncle Sam was also going to be dipping his little fingers in there and taking out a chunk, and I wouldn't receive the entire amount. And the more that I thought about this, I really became infuriating. And it really infuriated me because with no extra effort on his part, he was going to be getting a bonus too, above and beyond that which was already being customarily withheld from my paycheck. And I really didn't think that that was right. And in my head, things just didn't add up. This is really what began my quest to look at ways to help me further reduce any tax burden that I had or that I thought that I had. Now, continuing on, in my search for ways to reduce my tax liability, I came across a website, an author, and a book that totally threw me for a loop, and it has forever changed my life and my family's life. This website, again, as I've already mentioned, is losthorizons.com. I remember spending hours late into the night the first time that I found the site, looking at information that was supposedly true, but was really unbelievable to my eyes. It was like nothing that I'd ever seen or read before. I think I went to bed about 3:30 a.m. that morning. The first time that I found the website, I was just enamored. I was glued to my computer for so long because not only did this website have refund checks, but it had back and forth banter between particular tax filers and IRS and state governments. It showed the good, the bad, the ugly. It was all documented. As I read through the internet pages, the reviews, the attorney endorsements, written testimonials, the video testimonials, the documentation, it all appeared that it was in order. It was just an overwhelming amount of data. It really could not be ignored. I had to keep digging into it. I just couldn't believe my eyes. You can say, well, hey, a website with just a bunch of tax refunds on it, that's no big deal. Well, let me continue my story. These were not just any tax returns. These were actually tax returns where the filers received all of their federal withholdings back, along with any contributions made to Social Security and Medicare. Yes, you heard me right. All of the withholdings that were taken from their checks, all of this money was returned to the rightful owner, and in some cases, amounts above and beyond that which was filed due to accrued interest. So here's your first assignment. At the end of this video, I want you to dig up your last 3 years of W-2 and 1099 statements and add them all up. Okay, that's your first homework assignment. Now, again, when I read this, are you kidding me? All full refunds, including Social Security and Medicare withholdings. I was really stumped when I saw that. I was like, if I could get all of the money back like these people, that would be incredible. So, what was the catch? Why were they able to access the money, and why was I any different? Was this website all made up? Was it craftily fabricated facade for the author to sell his book? Was the information actually photoshopped? Could I trust the information? I had used 3 different CPAs over the past 15 years, and none of them ever told me about this or got me a full refund of all of my withholdings. So here are my numbers. I went back 6 years, 2017 through 2012, and wrote down 4 columns. I actually filled out an Excel spreadsheet and began typing in the numbers with mine and my wife's W-2 records. And I couldn't believe my eyes. As we totaled all of this up, we had actually paid in a little over $227,000 during that 6-year time period. Now, I didn't realize at the time when I first was getting my feet wet in cracking the code that you could actually only go back for 3 years. So even still, the numbers were still quite large, and I could not let those numbers go. I immediately ordered the author's book so that I could read it on my upcoming vacation, during which time I had planned to focus my undivided attention, albeit, having some fun on vacation, but when not having fun, just reading and soaking in the material, because I wanted to get to the bottom of how these refunds were possible for so many people that I had seen documented on the website losthorizons.com. Now, this was towards the end of May 2018 from the timeline. So after returning from vacation where I read the book through to cover to cover, through and through, I continued my research more. I looked at the site. I continued going on it daily, basically. I wanted to find people to talk to, actual people. I looked for folks right here in Georgia who had filed their returns this way. And I still remember finding the multiple returns from a guy in Alpharetta, which is an area in Georgia where I used to work. Lo and behold, there wasn't just 1 or 2 people, but I'd come to find out there were about 6 or 7 right here within a 20-mile radius of where I lived, and there were several more farther out than that. I managed to get in touch with Pete, the author, who in turn helped me contact some of these local Georgia folks. So we met for dinner at a place, and of course we had very deep conversations. I asked a lot of deep questions. I was a sponge. I was still somewhat in shock that this was actually true. So again, I continued my research. I wanted to absorb the information. I wanted to verify it. I wanted to look at the success of others who had truthfully and honestly used this information that was little known. Was little known to me. So during the next 4 to 6 weeks, I printed out some 20 or 30 tax returns that were on the site, the Lost Horizons website, and I studied them very closely. Of course, the personal information was all redacted or hidden, so that wasn't a big deal, but I was looking at what did they submit, how did they submit it, what wording did they use, etc. Why was I doing this? I was doing this because the material contained in the book was foreign to me. It actually resonated with every fiber in my being and eloquently pieced together the things that I perceived in my head but never fully connected the dots on. So my eyes were now open and it all began to make sense to me. Now, no one can do your reading or your research for you, but I will share a couple lessons that I learned from the book in hopes that it will spurn your desire to learn more about this fascinating topic. Now, before I share my 4 lessons with you, let me show you a picture of the whiteboard that is in my office and explain what it means. So you'll see that this whiteboard has the date July 1st, 2018. That was after I had been reading and studying for about 2 months, and I started what I called my IRA project. Now, this was not a traditional quote unquote IRA, but what it meant to me was income reclamation activities. IRA, income reclamation activities. Essentially, it was me taking the necessary steps to have all of my hard earned money, which was incorrectly categorized as wages, returned to me. Income reclamation activities. I wanted to reclaim what was rightfully mine. I originally wrote this on the board, but then I ended up moving everything to a spreadsheet for tracking, but it has served as a visual aid and it's still on my board today and reminds me of those outstanding returns that I have. So moving on, I'm going to share with you my four lessons that I learned from cracking the code. So here we go. Number one, very, very important. Words have meaning and context. The words have meaning and must be viewed in the context and sections of the law. I'm talking about words like wages, employee, employer, income, taxpayer, trade or business, includes, including, or U.S. person, just to name a few. Now, surprisingly, these words don't just have one meaning, the meaning we think that they have. These are words that sometimes we throw around in our HR departments quite frequently. Now, when it comes to the law and the codes, there are actually references pointing to the definitions and context for how that word applies or how its meaning is applied when the word is used within the law. That's pretty tricky, huh? It turns out that oftentimes the words are not the common definition words that or meanings that we would use every day. So we've kind of been misinformed on this for a very long time. Have you ever heard the phrase term of art? Well, it is a noun, and it says a word or phrase that has a precise, specialized meaning within a particular field or profession. So it is a legal term that is defined in the law itself. So a lot of these words are in term of art. Let's take a look at a section of the code and reference some of the highlighted or hyperlinked words so that you can see what I mean. Remember the term of art that I mentioned. So here we are in cornell.edu. This is pulling up the Internal Revenue Code, Title 26, 3401, talking about wages. And I just highlighted or hovered over the word employee, and I bubbled that over to bring up the actual definition. And then you can again click through it and find out the definition of corporation. Now, the typical way that we define employee, when you read this definition, it isn't quite the same. It's a totally different rendering or definition, and it means something totally different. And it's very, very important what that means. So that's just one reference that you can see. Here's something else. Because of the narrow definitions of the various words, I learned that the federal income tax is actually an excise tax with respect to certain activities and privileges for which it is measured by reference to the income which they produce. The income is not the subject of the tax, it is the basis for determining the amount of tax. So think cigarette tax. If you don't want to have to pay the cigarette tax, you don't buy cigarettes. Or gasoline. If you don't buy gasoline, you don't pay a gasoline tax. The privilege excise principle is actually very simple. For the government to be able to charge an indirect, non apportioned fee or tax for engaging in an activity, the activity has to be done by permission of the government rather than anything done by right. So, this makes the things done for which the fee can be charged necessarily and inherently an exercise of privilege. Let's take a look at this. Take a look at what F. Morris Hubbard, the Treasury Department legislative draftsman, wrote in the U.S. House Congressional Record, March 27, 1943, page 2580. The income tax, therefore, is not a tax on income as such. It is an excise tax with respect to certain activities and privileges, which is measured by reference to the income which they produce. And it continues. That's what I just read on the previous slide. Now, you can find this document as the Hubbard PDF file on losthorizons.com. So there you have it, the congressional record from 1943. Pretty cool scanned document there. What about the word taxpayers? This is also interesting, more term of art. The revenue laws are a code or system and regulation of tax assessment and collection. They relate to taxpayers and not to non taxpayers. The latter are without their scope. No procedure is prescribed for non taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights and remedies in due course of law. With them, Congress does not assume to deal, and they are neither of the subject or nor of the object of the revenue laws. That was pretty interesting. Um, so, taxpayers is another legal term defined as any person who is subject to any internal revenue tax. So, obviously, there is a difference. If you're a taxpayer, then you file forms and pay the tax. If you don't fit the definition of taxpayer, then you must rebut any false information returns and reclaim your full refunds. Pretty simple. Moving on to lesson number 2, I learned the who, the what, the where, and when, and why the withholding system that got put in place, which separates you and I from our hard earned money. That's lesson number 2. Have you ever heard of the W-4 form? You know, the thing that they make you fill out when you start a job? The paper that no one can help you fill out or answer for you, that you must fill out, ascertain the right values, and sign under penalty of perjury? It seems that a clever withholding system was devised in the early 1940s to help with the expenses of WW2 of the World War II. Now, I'm not here to go into all of those things, but let's take a quick look at the form. Most people speed through this form, filling it out the same way each time. They never give a thought to what it is or what its intended purpose was. Have you actually ever read all of the pieces of the form? What is this Section 7 stuff here? If everyone has to pay taxes and everyone has to withhold, then why is this even on the form? Have you read it? I claim exemption from withholding for 2019, and I certify that I meet both of the following conditions for exemption. Last year, I had the right to a refund of all federal income tax withheld because I had no tax liability. And this year, I expect a refund of all federal income tax withheld because I have no tax liability. If you meet both conditions, write exempt here. Very interesting. Never really read that as I sped through everything before, filling out my normal name and address and dependents and all of that stuff, and signed my John Hancock to it. But this is actually what enables withholding from your paycheck, as you know. Lesson number 3, moving on quickly. I learned about information returns and the need to rebut them when necessary. Lesson 3, learning about information returns. So shown here is the trusty W-2 statement. At the time of this recording, February 23rd, 2020, W-2s should have been mailed out to the workforce at large by January 31st. A lot of people get them online now, and but they should have been delivered to any people that needed them by January 31st. Now, this is just an example, one example of what's called an information return. There are dozens more. Some of the research I did looked like there was 48 and possibly more. Other types of information returns you might be familiar with would be a 1099 miscellaneous form, a 1099-R form, an 8027 TIPS form, a 1095 health coverage form, or a 1098 mortgage interest form, just to name a few. The key thing is when you look at the bottom left corner, it says copy B to be filed with the employee's federal tax return. And under that, it says this information is being furnished to the Internal Revenue Service. So again, these are the things that actually are sticky. When you have these W-2s filed against you, if you don't correct the record, then this is the valid statement, and it holds as law that you owe tax. So this is very, very important. I've never had the need to look at a W-3 form, but I had always understood that a employer actually files this to the Social Security Administration. Now, a lot of the fields that are on this form are very similar to a W-2 because it reports much of the same information. But what I did find interesting is at the very top of this form was an interesting area that I'll zoom in on here. And it actually references kinds of payers as well as kinds of employers. And I thought this was very interesting. Now, again, the W-3 form is a summary of total wages, Social Security wages, and federal income tax withheld, as well as FICA taxes for employees during a particular year, and it also lists the number of W-2 forms being transmitted. So I've never had the need to look at this, but I found this the other day and I thought this was very interesting. So, continuing lesson 3, that I learned about informational returns and how that actually pins tax liability on you or to you unless you rebut it using the familiar 1040, 1040X for an amended return, and a form that you may not know exists but is readily available for download from the IRS, the trustee form 4852, substitute for W 2. Now, it boils down to this: if a payer files a W 2 with the IRS and you don't rebut it, then it stands on record and legally ties you to owing tax on that money that they claim were wages, which would be taxable. So it's important to rebut false information. It could cost you a lot of money or get you in trouble if you do not. So learn that 4852 form is a very important form. You can see the form on the screen and it has a control number. So again, remember 4852. Remember information returns. Remember that those, if they go unrebutted or uncontested, tie you to a tax liability. So let's go to our final lesson, lesson number 4, and that is where I learned that the 16th Amendment did not change the nature of the income tax, much to what we've been told before. Thought this was a very interesting piece Pete had put out there. This is a report from 1979. It is a report number 80-19A, Some Constitutional Questions Regarding the Federal Income Tax Laws by Howard M. Zaritsky, Legislative Attorney of the American Law Division of the Library of Congress. This is page 5. I call out the highlighted part in yellow. It says the Supreme Court, in a decision written by Chief Justice White, first noted that the 16th Amendment did not authorize any new type of tax, nor did it repeal or revoke the tax clauses of Article 1 of the Constitution quoted above. Direct taxes were, notwithstanding the advent of the 16th Amendment, still subject to the rule of apportionment. And it goes on. Now, my goal in this video was not to put all of Pete's book in video form. It's just too much to share. I just wanted to give you guys some interesting facts that I learned and pique your interest into doing your own research if you haven't already heard of this information. Again, there's so much information in Pete's book, Cracking the Code, and on Lost Horizons website that you can go out to look at for free. I encourage you to do that. So these were just a couple quick 4 lessons that I wanted to share in reading Cracking the Code. Again, where Pete points you to cases, laws, all of the different things that you need to really understand and piece all of this together. So very, very interesting stuff. Now here's a bonus for you, a 5th lesson. I also learned this. I learned many other things, but I tried to keep this video short. It's already gonna go pretty long, but I learned how to get an immediate 30% raise without changing jobs. Now, in order for me to share this with you, here's the thing: you just got to get the book. You need to read the book to get this this bonus lesson, 5th lesson: how to get a raise, 30% raise without changing jobs. Now, the hint, I'll give you a hint. The main thing is to start telling the truth. You just start telling the truth. So you need to get familiar with the letter and intent of the U.S. income tax laws, and the best way to do that is to read losthorizons.com and get a copy of Cracking the Code. It's probably your best investment that you'll ever make. I am an Audible subscriber. I have probably 75 or 80 books that I've listened to on Audible. I pay $14, $15 a book, maybe $7, maybe $30 a book. This book, whatever it costs on Pete's website, I don't know if it's going for $30. It's probably the best $30 investment you'll ever spend, the $30 you'll ever spend. So again, go get that book and learn how to get a 30% raise without changing jobs. Here's a few other points to consider when you start down the path of this information. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is important information that needs to be taken very seriously. You have to really look at the forms closely. You need to understand liability and understand what you're to do with the forms, and it's not just something you haphazardly go into. You need to really study and commit to study this material. It's very important. the concepts are not hard, but all of the language and the legalese can get you all twisted up. So you kind of have to unlearn the things you've been taught since you were a baby and go back and really see how all of these laws are pieced together. I encourage you also to read the laws and the court cases yourselves. You can see the links. Pete does a phenomenal job of actually putting all of the hyperlinks to the online court things. I've found where a lot of them you can actually listen to the audio of the Supreme Court judges ruling on a lot of this stuff. It's pretty cool. So again, the resources are there. You need to go through it yourself so that you can grasp it, you can explain it, and you can have that as part of your knowledge bank. Another thing to note is that you may encounter some pushback. About 90 or so percent of the filers, maybe 95, Pete has the best examples or the best numbers to judge. About 90 to 95% of the filers, they don't have an issue. They go through the process, they follow the information, they vet themselves out, and if they don't owe the tax, they put in the necessary forms to get their refunds back, and everything comes back, and they send in a documentation video or scan their checks and all their forms, and life is good. Now, I'm part of the group that hasn't had it all roses. Now, I've had minimal issues with the IRS because I've received 3 refunds back now, but I am in a battle with the state of Georgia Revenue Department. They are wanting to play hardball and dealing with a rogue agent over there who just is trying to make things difficult for really no apparent reason. So we're working through this and hopefully can present the truth. Maybe we have to go to court over this, take some legal actions in order to get our money back, but that's what we're prepared to do, and we will do that to make sure the rule of law is followed. So again, just to consider these things. It's not a get rich quick scheme. You can't go, oh wow, I have all this money out there. You need to make sure that you're eligible to receive the refund. You need to study this material, read the laws for yourself, and study all of the different refunds and returns that people have submitted on the website. There's so many out there. A couple other points to consider. Definitely go to the Lost Horizons website, because I've been telling you multiple times, there is so much information out there on so many of these topics. It is just really, really a valuable tool. That's what I read late into the night and studied for several months while I got the book. And again, another resource is, hey, there's people all over the United States who've been helped by this information. Check and see if there's a local group in your state that you might be able to get connected with or get on a web call with. And basically, there are folks ready and willing to help you and get you started on your journey. And I've had the privilege of meeting several folks from different groups around both the West Coast and East Coast, and just some awesome people. Really, some people who are honest and upcoming, and really they want to do the right thing and they want to help other people do it as well. So I know that I promised you that I would show you the money, as my wife always says when I have good ideas that I think I can capitalize on. She says, all right, that sounds good, but show me the money. I guess that's also from a Jerry Maguire, or the movie Jerry Maguire too. So show me the money. So let's take a look at the money here. So this is a couple pictures of me standing outside the United States Post Office. And this is me sending my first educated refund check, or I'm sorry, my first educated return for 2017 tax year. So this is July 7th, 2018. Here's a text message that I sent my family from this picture. I said, it's official. I filed an educated tax return for 2017 requesting the monies incorrectly withheld from my pay. The few forms within these envelopes indicate overpayments of almost $42,000. Mark the date, July 7th, 2018. I will send you pictures of the direct deposit line items when they clear, estimating 4 to 6 weeks. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And then I also did a little documentary video, and let's see if we can play that here. Hey guys, today's July 7th, 2018. I'm standing outside my post office. Got these 2 envelopes to mail today, one federal and one state. These are my educated filing returns for 2017, and I am about to drop them in certified mail to get my money back. Contained in here is about $42,000 owed to me, and I'm rightfully getting that back through the instruments and the documentation that I need to fill out in order to do that. So I'm just going to post this video and let you know what I'm up to. It's July 7th. I look forward to posting my refunds as well. Thanks to cracking the code. Bye. All right, so there you have it, straight from me. So we'll get right into the checks. So that video was about my 2017. That was the first one that I actually filed under the understanding or with the understanding of cracking the code information. And um, what I have here is my checks, basically oldest to newest. This was my 2016 check. This is my largest check. This was an amended return. You can see I didn't file this until 2019. I filed it and I got it within a month. This was the fastest refund that I had ever received. I'm assuming that it was because late in the year and they weren't doing a whole lot with taxes, maybe. I don't know. But they sent me the money, and you'll notice that I had an interest amount of almost $4,000 that was also included in that payment for 2016. So again, this was an amended return for that. 2017, actually, this says amended. I guess it was an amended return. 2017, no, 2017 was not. This was an actual filing of a correct return based on cracking the code. So that slide is wrong. But I want to point out that this was my first one and also was my longest. You'll notice that it was from July 7th, 2018, which the video stated, and it took nearly a year to get this refund. I also received interest of almost $2,000, $1,802.70 for this particular refund. And last but not least is my 2018 refund. Check is in the mail. This was a straight return filed on June 24th of 2019. I received it on September 16th, 19. So again, almost 3 months. And because it was filed that year, there was not a lot of interest as part of it. So you can see it's definitely there in black and white. The scans are there. You can go to the Lost Horizons bulletin board and find, I don't know, about 1,000 or so of people's refunds and returns and all of their filed documents. You can see line by line what they sent. And again, the good, bad, and ugly is there. If they get somebody from the IRS who's giving them a hassle and sending them a nasty gram or a dirty letter, that's all out there. And you can see the battles back and forth. For people, working to get their money back. The screen just shows you that I did deposit those checks in my account. Again, all due to reading and understanding cracking the code, which pointed me to the actual law for the Internal Revenue Code. In closing, again, these were the 4 lessons that I shared with you. Four distinct things that I learned. And again, everyone's different, but these are a major theme contained in Cracking the Code, The Fascinating Truth About Taxation in America by Peter Eric Hendrickson. So as I wrap up this video, it's my hope that this video has piqued your interest. If you haven't heard about this information, that you'll go to the website, that you'll go get your W-2s, your 1099 forms out, that you'll start adding that up and basically processing that and go, wow, I could reclaim my money. This is awesome. So the question for you is, do you have any outstanding unreturned funds sitting out there that need to be brought back home? Go to Lost Horizons, start reading, go check out if you're eligible, get a copy of Cracking the Code. I don't get any kind of kickbacks for promoting this. I'm doing this because Pete's helped me. And then you can see that I've gotten quite a bit of money back because of the material and the time, sweat, and energies that he's put into printing the book in 2003. And now it's in its 14th or 15th edition. I'm not sure. I've lost count. But again, read all the material on losthorizons.com. Crack the code. Free your family, get your hard-earned money back, do good, help other people, share this information and freedom with someone else. That's all I've got for now. I've cracked the code. This is Steve Butler from Atlanta, Georgia, signing off. Take care.